Hi everyone, welcome to Reading Corner. I'm really happy that you could come and read with me today. Have you ever heard anyone say, I have to get all my ducks in a row? It's a saying about getting organized and getting things all arranged neatly. And I was thinking to myself yesterday, I don't actually have all my ducks in a row. I really don't. But I do have some books about ducks. So I went to my files of books and I found 3 books about ducks that I just know you're going to enjoy. So even if our ducks aren't in a row anywhere else, we can have them in a row today with our stories. The first book is called One Lucky Duck. And this is another book that was loaned to me by Audrey and Caleb. So hi, Audrey and Caleb. Thank you again for sharing your really fun books with us. The next book is from the Beatrix Potter collection and it's called The Tale of Jemima Puddleduck. And we'll find out what happens when Jemima Puddleduck wants to lay her own eggs and sit on her own nest. And then the last book is the story of a duck called Ping. And this is a book that was given to me when I was in preschool in 1974. So I don't know if you guys can count, but that's a long time ago when I was just a little 4-year-old. And it's been a favorite of mine my whole life. And I read it to my children and I found it on my bookshelf. And I thought, oh, well, if I'm reading about ducks, then I have to include my favorite book about a duck called Ping. So let's start with One Lucky Duck. This little duck loses his quack and we'll see how he finds help on the farm. Down on the farm by the splishy splashy pond, one unlucky duck is sad. I've lost my quack and I want to have it back. So one unlucky duck waddles through the puddles and dives into the duck pond, but the quack is nowhere to be found. Down on the farm in the slippy sloppy muck, the unlucky duck clucks. Cluck, cluck, cluck. 2 helpful hens say ducks don't cluck, but I've lost my quack. Can you help me get it back? So one unlucky duck and 2 helpful hens hunt in the hen house, but the quack is nowhere to be found. Down on the farm in the soggy doggy yard, the unlucky duck barks. Woof, woof. 3 dozy dogs say ducks don't bark, but I've lost my quack. Can you help me get it back? So one unlucky duck and 3 dozy dogs climb in the kennel, but the quack is nowhere to be found. Down on the farm in the slippy slidey lawn, the unlucky duck meows, meow. 4 cunning cats say ducks don't meow. I've lost my quack. Can you help me get it back? So one unlucky duck and 4 cunning cats file into the farmhouse, but the quack is nowhere to be found. Down on the farm in the prickly tickly hay, the unlucky duck neighs. 5 happy horses say ducks don't neigh. I've lost my quack. Can you help me get it back? So 1 unlucky duck and 5 happy horses search in the stables, but the quack is nowhere to be found. Down on the farm on the bumpy lumpy straw, the unlucky duck honks. 6 gabbling geese say ducks don't honk. I've lost my quack. Can you help me get it back? So 1 unlucky duck and 6 gabbling geese stamp in the straw, but the quack is nowhere to be found. Down on the farm in the soggy boggy field, the unlucky duck baas. Bah. 7 shaggy sheep say ducks don't baa, but I've lost my quack. Can you help me get it back? So 1 unlucky duck and 7 shaggy sheep grub in the grass, but the quack is nowhere to be found. Down on the farm in the messy, mossy pen, the unlucky duck bleats. 8 gambling goats say ducks don't bleat, but I've lost my quack. Can you help me get it back? So 1 unlucky duck and 8 gambling goats poke around the pen, but the quack is nowhere to be found. Down on the farm, in the creaky, leaky barn, the unlucky duck moos, moo. 9 clever cows say ducks don't moo, but I've lost my quack. Can you help me get it back? So 1 unlucky duck and 9 clever cows cause chaos in the cowshed, but the quack is nowhere to be found. Down on the farm in the splishy, splashy pond, 10 dappled ducks quack. Stop! You won't find a quack like that. So 10 dappled ducks, 9 clever cows, 8 gambling goats, 7 shaggy sheep, 6 gabbling geese, 5 happy horses, 4 cunning cats, 3 dozy dogs, and 2 helpful hens say quack, and 1 lucky duck quacks back, quack. The end. Just needed to go see his duck friends to find his quack, but he found lots of other lovely animals along the way to be friends with. So our next book is called The Tale of Jemima Puddleduck. This is about a duck who is a little bit, shall we say, simple. She's a simpleton is what she's called in this book. And she's just a little bit flaky and scatterbrained. She wants to hatch her own eggs, but, she finds herself in a little bit of trouble instead. What a funny sight it is to see a brood of ducklings with a hen. Listen to the story of Jemima Puddleduck, who was annoyed because the farmer's wife would not let her hatch her own eggs. Her sister-in-law, Mrs. Rebecca Puddleduck, was perfectly willing to leave the hatching to someone else. I have not the patience to sit on a nest for 28 days, and no more have you, Jemima. You would let them go cold, you know you would. I wish to hatch my own eggs. I will hatch them all by myself, quacked Jemima Puddleduck. She tried to hide her eggs, but they were always found and carried off. Jemima Puddleduck became quite desperate. She determined to make a nest right away from the farm. She set off on a fine spring afternoon along the cart road that leads over the hill. She was wearing a shawl and a poke bonnet. When she reached the top of the hill, she saw a wood in the distance. She thought that it looked a safe, quiet spot. Jemima Puddleduck was not much in the habit of flying. She ran downhill a few yards, flapping her shawl, and then she jumped off into the air. She flew beautifully when she had got a good start. She skimmed along over the treetops until she saw an open place in the middle of the wood where the trees and brushwood had been cleared. Jemima alighted rather heavily and began to toddle about in search of a convenient dry nesting place. She rather fancied a tree stump amongst some tall foxgloves, but seated upon the stump, she was startled to find an elegantly dressed gentleman reading a newspaper. He had black prick ears and sandy-coloured whiskers. Quack, said Jemima Puddleduck with her head and her bonnet on one side. Quack. The gentleman raised his eyes and looked up his newspaper and looked curiously at Jemima. Madam, have you lost your way? Said he. He had a long bushy tail, which he was sitting upon, as the stump was somewhat damp. Jemima thought him mighty civil and handsome. She explained that she had not lost her way, but that she was trying to find a convenient, dry nesting place. Ah, is that so? Indeed, said the gentleman with sandy whiskers, looking curiously at Jemima. He folded up the newspaper and put it in his coat-tail pocket. Jemima complained of the superfluous hen. Indeed, how interesting. I wish I could meet with that fowl. I would teach it to mind its own business. But as to a nest, there is no difficulty. I have a sack full of feathers in my woodshed. No, my dear madam, you will be in nobody's way. You may sit there as long as you like, said the bushy, long-tailed gentleman. He led the way to a very retired, small-looking house amongst the foxgloves. It was built of faggots and turf, and there were two broken pails, one on top of another, by way of a chimney. This is my summer residence. You would not find my winter house so convenient, said the hospitable gentleman. There was a tumble-down shed at the back of the house made of old soap boxes. The gentleman opened the door and showed Jemima in. The shed was almost quite full of feathers. It was almost suffocating, but it was comfortable and very soft. Jemima Puddleduck was rather surprised to find such a vast quantity of feathers, but it was very comfortable and she made a nest without any trouble at all. When she came out, the sandy-whiskered gentleman was sitting on the log reading a newspaper. At least he had it spread out, but he was looking over the top of it. He was so polite that he seemed almost sorry to let Jemima go home for the night. He promised to take great care of her nest until she came back again the next day. He said he loved eggs and ducklings and should be proud to see a fine nestful in his woodshed. Jemima Puddleduck came every afternoon. She laid 9 eggs in the nest. They were greeny white and very large. The foxy gentleman admired them immensely. He used to turn them over and count them when Jemima was not there. At last, Jemima told him she intended to begin to sit the next day. And I will bring a bag of corn with me so that I need never leave my nest until the eggs are hatched. They might catch cold, said the conscientious Jemima. Madam, I beg you not to trouble yourself with a bag. I will provide oats. But before you commence your tedious sitting, I intend to give you a treat. Let us have a dinner party all to ourselves. May I ask you to bring up some herbs from the farm garden to make a savoury omelette? Sage and thyme and mint and 2 onions and some parsley. I will provide lard for the omelette, said the hospitable gentleman with sandy whiskers. Jemima Puddleduck was a simpleton. Not even the mention of sage and onions made her suspicious. She went round the farm garden nibbling off snippets of all the different sorts of herbs that are used for stuffing roast duck. And she waddled into the kitchen and got 2 onions out of a basket. The collie dog, Pep, met her coming out. What are you doing with those onions? Where do you go every afternoon by yourself, Jemima Puddleduck? Jemima was rather in awe of the collie. She told him the whole story. The collie listened with his wise head on one side. He grinned when she described the polite gentleman with sandy whiskers. He asked several questions about the wood and about the exact position of the house and shed. Then he went out and trotted down to the village. He went to look for 2 foxhound puppies who were out at walk with the butcher. Jemima Puddleduck went up the cart road for the last time on a sunny afternoon. She was rather burdened with bunches of herbs and 2 onions in a bag. She flew over the wood and alighted opposite the house of the bushy, long-tailed gentleman. He was sitting on a log. He sniffed the air and kept glancing uneasily round the wood. When Jemima alighted, he quite jumped. Come into the house as soon as you have looked at your eggs. Give me the herbs for the omelette. Be sharp. He was rather abrupt. Jemima Puddleduck had never heard him speak like that. She felt surprised and uncomfortable. While she was inside, she heard pattering feet round the back of the shed. Someone with a black nose sniffed at the bottom of the door and then locked it. Jemima became much alarmed. A moment afterwards, there were the most awful noises, barking, baying, growls and howls, squealing and groans, and nothing more was ever seen of that foxy whiskered gentleman. Presently, Ket opened the door of the shed and let out Jemima Puddleduck. Unfortunately, the puppies rushed in and gobbled up all the eggs before he could stop them. He had a bite on his ear, and both puppies were limping. Jemima Puddleduck was escorted home in tears on account of those eggs. She laid some more in June, and she was permitted to keep them herself, but only 4 of them hatched. Jemima Puddleduck said that it was because of her nerves, but she had always been a bad sitter. The end. Poor Jemima, but in the end, she did get to sit on her eggs, but, it's just, I guess, proof that it's not really the job for her. Now we come to the story of Ping, and I know you're going to love this as much as I have all of my life. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful young duck named Ping. Ping lived with his mother and his father and 2 sisters and 3 brothers and 11 aunts and 7 uncles and 42 cousins. Their home was a boat with 2 wise eyes on the Yangtze River. Each morning as the sun rose from the east, Ping and his mother and his father and sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles and his 42 cousins all marched one by one down a little bridge to the shore of the Yangtze River. All day they would hunt for snails and little fishes and other pleasant things to eat. But in the evening, as the sun set in the west, la 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 lay would call the master of the boat. Quickly, Ping and all his many family would come scurrying. Quickly, they would march one by one up over the little bridge and onto the wise-eyed boat, which was their home on the Yangtze River. Ping was always careful, very, very careful, not to be last, because the last duck to cross over the bridge always got a speck on the back. But one afternoon, as the shadows grew long, Ping did not hear the call, because at that moment Ping was wrong side up, trying to catch a little fish. By the time Ping was right side up, his mother and his father and his aunts were already marching one by one up over the bridge. By the time Ping neared the shore, his uncles and his cousins were marching over. And by the time Ping reached the shore, the last of his 42 cousins had crossed the bridge. Ping knew he would be the last, the very last duck if he crossed the bridge. Ping did not want to be spanked. So he hid. Ping hid behind the grasses, and as the dark came and the pale moon shone in the sky, Ping watched the wise-eyed boat slowly sail away down the Yangtze River. All night long, Ping slept near the grasses on the bank of the river with his head tucked under his wing, and when the sun rose up from the east, Ping found he was all alone on the Yangtze River. There was no father or mother, no sisters or brothers, no aunts or uncles, no 42 cousins to go fishing with Ping. So Ping started out to find them, swimming down the yellow waters of the Yangtze River. As the sun rose higher in the sky, boats came, big boats and little boats, fishing boats and beggars' boats, houseboats and raft boats, and all these boats had eyes to see with, but nowhere could Ping see the wise-eyed boat, which was his home. Then came a boat of strange, dark fishing birds. Ping saw them diving for fish for their master. As each bird brought a fish to his master, he would give it a little piece of fish for pay. Closer and closer swooped the fishing birds near Ping. Now Ping could see shining rings round their necks, rings of metal made so tight The birds could never swallow the big fish they were catching. Swoop, splash, splash. The ringed birds were dashing here and there all about Ping. So down he ducked and swam under the yellow water of the Yangtze River. When Ping came up to the top of the water far away from the fishing birds, he found little crumbs floating, tender little rice cake crumbs which made a path to a houseboat. As Ping ate those crumbs, he came nearer and nearer to the houseboat. Then, splash! There in the water was a boy, a little boy with a barrel on his back which was tied to a rope from the boat, just as all boat boys on the Yangtze River are tied to their boats. In the boy's hand was a rice cake. "Oh, ow, ow!" cried the little boy, and up dashed Ping and snatched at the rice cake. Quickly, the boy grabbed Ping and held him tight. "Quack, quack, quack, quack!" cried Ping. "Oh, oh!" yelled the little boy. Ping and the boy made such a splashing and such a noise that the boy's father came running, and the boy's mother came running, and the boy's sister and brother came running, and they all looked over the edge of the boat at Ping and the boy splashing in the water of the Yangtze River. Then the boy's mother and father pulled at the rope which was tied to the barrel on the little boy's back. They pulled, and up came Ping and the boy onto the houseboat. "Ah, a duck dinner has come to us," said the boy's father. "I will cook him with rice at sunset tonight," said the boy's mother. "No, no, my nice duck is too beautiful to eat," cried the boy. But down came a basket all over Ping, and he could see no more of the boy or the boat or the sky or the beautiful yellow water of the Yangtze River. All day long, Ping could see only the thin lines of sun which shone through the cracks in the basket, and Ping was very sad. After a long while, Ping heard the sound of oars and felt the jerk, jerk, jerk of the boat as it was rowed down the Yangtze River. Soon, the lines of sunshine which came through the cracks of the basket turned rose colour, and Ping knew the sun was setting in the west. Ping heard footsteps coming near to him. The basket was quickly lifted, and the little boy's hands were holding Ping. Quickly, quietly, the boy dropped Ping over the side of the boat, and Ping slipped into the water, the beautiful yellow water of the Yangtze River. Then Ping heard this call, "La, la, 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 lay." Ping looked, and there, near the bank of the river, was the wise-eyed boat, which was Ping's home. And Ping saw his mother and his father and his aunts all marching one by one up over the little bridge. Swiftly, Ping turned and swam, paddling toward the shore. Now Ping could see his uncles marching one by one. Paddle, paddle, Ping hurried to the shore. Ping saw his cousins marching one by one. Paddle, paddle, Ping neared the shore, but as Ping reached the shore, the last of Ping's 42 cousins marched over the bridge, and Ping knew that he was late again. But up marched Ping over the little bridge, and spank came the cane on Ping's back. Then, at last, Ping was back with his mother and his father, and 2 sisters and 3 brothers, and 11 aunts and 7 uncles and 42 cousins, home again on the wise-eyed boat on the Yangtze River. The end. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and I hope you enjoyed helping me get all my ducks in a row, and I hope that wherever you are, you can get your ducks in a row too. Wherever you are, wherever your ducks are, I hope that you're having a really good day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again here at Reading Corner. Bye for now.